In today's video, I'm going to help you go from self-sabotage to self-mastery in 90 days. And it's going to be a little bit of a longer training today, but we're going to break it down into 3 different parts. And the first part is one of the most important, which is we're going to take a look at the 6 beliefs and myths that are keeping you stuck right now. And I'm going to help you overcome those and reprogram and rewire your mind around it. And then what we're going to do is in this new belief, in this new kind of mindset that you'll have, I'm going to have you do an honest self-assessment to just really see where you are. And then in the last part, I'm going to invite you and explain like what it would look like over 90 days to shift into self-mastery. So make sure that you stick around until the end because I'm going to be sharing a lot of value, and let's get into it right away. So for today's training, I want to make it super clear who this is intended for, and that's where we're going to start. So this is for entrepreneurs, business owners, and leaders, and not just specifically any entrepreneur or business owner. This is for the individual who is called for more, but you are probably a little bit fed up, a little bit frustrated, and just feeling held back by self-sabotaging patterns. You have tried things over and over, and you're not able to consistently follow through. There are things that you know that you should be doing that you just can't get your body and your mind to follow through on them. But you are committed to doing the inner work that is needed for transformation. If you check all 3 of those boxes, then let's keep going. Because if you're in that place, I just want to say, like, I see you. I have been there. I know what it's like to feel held back by fear, by self-doubt, by self-sabotage. But through the things that we talk about today and through a lot of my content, I really want to invite you to keep going. And I just want to encourage you to stick along with me on today's training because I hope that you will get some value out of it. And the first thing is whenever you're trying to kind of stop this cycle, or whenever you're trying to get out of a rut, what we need to do is we need to take a look at your existing beliefs. And I found that there's 6 myths that are typically keeping you stuck where you're at. And the first one is this is normal, right? It's normal to experience self-sabotage. It's normal to experience self-doubt. It's normal to experience fear and be held back and be prevented from doing all of these things. That's probably what you're thinking right now. And you've probably even said that out loud multiple times. But in order to really get to where you want to go and make this transition, we need to make the shift from this is normal to something along the lines of this. Like, I'm not trying to be normal. I'm trying to be exceptional. Because if you keep staying in this place of kind of accepting the way that things are, knowing that you're not where you want to be, then you're never going to become exceptional. Your business is never going to get to where you believe it can be. Your vision is never going to be realized. Your family is never going to have the individual that you know that you're capable of becoming. And so if you're in that place of like just feeling like, oh, it's normal to be like this, then I want to challenge you to really think about, like, are you trying to be normal or are you trying to be exceptional? Because the individuals that will come across this, I believe you're trying to be exceptional. And I believe that you're trying to do amazing things in this world. I believe that's why, God created you and put you on this earth to do amazing things and to glorify him and to like live out your mission. So I really want to challenge you to step away from this normal thinking and step into something that's more exceptional. Another myth that I find holds a lot of people back is, it's not that bad. Like, I know I could be doing all of these things, but it's really not that bad. And sometimes this is like your mind's way of protecting you from the actual reality of it. But I really want to challenge you and ask you, like, how much has it cost you already? Not just physically or financially, but emotionally and mentally, to be kind of stuck where you're at. If you think about it over the past 6 months or the past 1 year or the past 3 years or the past 5 years, like, how much has these patterns that you're going through, how much did that cost you? Because when you start to like think that way, you're going to recognize that this cycle, this pattern, these thoughts, these doubts, these fears, they've cost me way too much already. And like, this might be almost like a tough pill to swallow, but I had to go through this process of like realizing how much I had missed out on by just being afraid to act, by being afraid to like put myself out there, by being afraid to like fully commit to my business. And when I made this shift of like, oh, this has already cost me too much and I don't want to be held back by this anymore, that's when I was started to like make that transformation. So that's why I'm sharing that with you. And I really want to challenge you to realize that it's already cost you too much. So it's time to like really make a change. The third myth that I find holds a lot of people back, and I have been guilty of this one as well, is like, oh, I can just figure this out on my own with podcasts, audiobooks. Like, if you're anything like me, you're probably like constantly buying books that you know that you're never even going to finish reading them, or you start to like learn about something in terms of like personal development, and you just start binging all of the podcasts, all of the audiobooks. But when you really look at it, how much action are you taking from the podcasts and the audiobooks that you're listening to? Like, what percentage of the time when you read a book or you listen to a podcast, do you actually follow through on the information that all of these experts are saying? Most of the time, you'll recognize that it's probably a pretty small percentage. And sometimes the learning and the commitment to like the personal development is actually a distraction from doing the work. And so I had to make the shift from like, I can figure this out on my own with podcasts and audiobooks, to more information will not solve my problem, but action will. And this is going to be a big one for a lot of people that are listening to this or watching it, because information alone doesn't make any sort of change. It's really the implementation and the action that comes from it that really changes things. And this has been one of the biggest shifts that I have made to help me like break out of my own like fear and self-doubt patterns to step into like who I'm truly called to be. So it's not about information, it's all about taking action. So let's look at the next myth and the next belief is, man, this is a big one for a lot of men out there. You feel like if you need to like reach out for help or get a coach or get a mentor or like join like a program, it almost feels like weak. And this is almost something like we feel like we should have all of the answers and we feel like we should be able to figure it out on our own. And, I remember like there were times when I had the thought of, well, I didn't need help before, so why would I need help now? And it's kind of like overcoming this belief of like, if you reach out for help for anything, then you're weak. And that is just so false, because the thing that helped me realize it is when I started thinking about some of the best athletes in the world, some of the best entrepreneurs in the world, some of the best like leaders that I've ever been around. The best always have coaches. They always have multiple mentors. And I think it was when I learned about LeBron James, who's one of the greatest basketball players of all time, second to MJ. But I learned that he spends like $1 million a year on just taking care of his body. And I learned he has like a mental performance coach. He has a chef. He's got a basketball coach. He's got probably 5 to 10 different assistant coaches. One person probably has like 20 different coaches and mentors. And that is what has helped him become the best. So if you are really trying to be exceptional, like we talked about at the top, if you're trying to like create a vision that is so like inspiring, then you need to have coaches and you need to get over this belief that I'm weak if I get help. This was a huge one for me. So we got a couple more here. This is one where you might be thinking, I know I need to make a change, but I'm afraid to break out of my comfort zone. And man, this one, I totally feel this, because a lot of times when we're anticipating making a change, if it's like starting your business or growing your business or launching a new product or starting a podcast or putting something out there in terms of content, there's the actual kind of decision that needs to be made. But then there's, once you make the decision, there's the courage to actually follow through on it. And a lot of times when you know you need to do something, but you're not doing it, it becomes a matter of courage rather than making the decision. And one of the best ways to really reframe this and to think about breaking out of your comfort zone is to ask yourself this question of, regardless of where you're at right now, if you were to just kind of close your eyes and imagine the ideal best case version of yourself, because I know that you have pictured that before, you can ask yourself, how would that version of me act right now? The ideal best case version of me would probably take the next step. The best version of me would probably reach out to a coach or a mentor. The best version of me would join a community, or the best version of me would commit to following through on the exercise, commit to following through on the things that I need to do to grow my business. And it's almost a helpful way to think of that best version of you as a separate person from who you are today, because then you can act as if that person was in your everyday life and they were, acting every single day. So this is one of the best questions that you can ask yourself anytime you're in that place of a little bit of fear and uncertainty around how you should act and if you can actually break out of your comfort zone. So those are 5 myths. We got one more, and this is a big one. Is just around timing. Like, so many times in my past, I've wanted to do something, but I felt like it's not the right time. And one of the best shifts that I learned from this is from Alex Hormozi. And he says, basically just flip it. Whatever answer you come up with as to why now's not the right time, now's not the right time because I'm starting a family. You can basically flip it and just say, now's the best time because I'm starting a family. So whatever your excuse is, you basically can either make the decision that it's not a good time or it's the best time. So for example, now's not the best time to start working out because I'm busy. You can actually start to say, well, now's the best time to start working out because I'm busy. And if I can figure it out now when I'm busy, then in the future, when I'm not as busy, it'll make it easier. Now's actually the best time to make that change. So you can kind of see how these different shifts and these different beliefs can play out. But I hope that this helps start to shift your mindset and your beliefs from where you currently are to where you want to go. The change and the transformation that you seek starts by changing these beliefs and adopting the green beliefs, the green cards that are on the right. And this is one of the best places to start. So where do we go from here? Now that you have these different beliefs, you're starting to kind of shift your mind around where you're at and how you can see the world. I think whenever you're trying to get somewhere in your life and in your business, it's really important to understand what is your current reality. What is your current launching point? It's almost like you're using Google Maps and you're trying to get somewhere. You always kind of type in the end destination, but you always start with where are you currently at? And I think at this point, I think it's really helpful to just take a look at and do a self-assessment about where are you at currently when it comes to your mindset, when it comes to your patterns and your self-sabotage. And so what I have here are 18 different symptoms, let's say, or things that you can experience if you're in this cycle. And as I'm reading them and as you are listening to them or looking at them, I want you to just make a mental note and just make a check mark if this is something that you experience throughout the day or throughout the week. Because at the end, we'll just kind of using this as a launching point to see where are you at currently. So the first one, negative self-talk. You're just in your head, kind of constantly doubting yourself. Second one, procrastination. That's avoiding the things that you need to do, putting things off, not responding to text messages, not like reaching out to certain people because it's uncomfortable. Next one, fear of success. This is like fear of like, what if it actually goes well? Can I handle it? Fear of failure. What's going to happen if I fail? What are other people going to think about me? And kind of imagining those worst case scenarios. Perfectionism. This is like the pressure to have all of the answers all of the time, to be seen as perfect by others. I know that one very well. The lack of consistency. This is where you just tell yourself, I'm not a consistent person, or I'm consistently inconsistent. You can say something like that. Lack of healthy routines. Maybe you have said that you want to start working out and you have all of the equipment and you've bought the machines, but you're just not doing it. You're not following through. That is an example. Comparison. This is one where you probably see all the people around you. Maybe you see people on social media. Maybe you see people that you work with, see people in your neighborhood, and you just constantly compare yourself of where you're at to where these other people are. And you're just constantly, it makes you feel like inferior. Imposter syndrome. This is where you're at work and you just are almost like afraid for maybe your boss, or you're afraid of somebody in your business to like discover that you're not actually as qualified as you think that you are. Going into sales meetings, maybe you're nervous and you're kind of timid and you're playing small. That's a big one. Poor health and routines, another really big one. Not just in terms of like exercise routines, but probably your diet. Maybe you have some emotional eating. That's an example of something. Another is feeling resistant or avoidant to important conversations or interactions. This is where you just don't want to have the hard conversations. You don't want to have the conversations that could actually lead to your best results. Another one, lack of fulfillment or disconnection. This is where you almost like feel isolated. You feel like you're doing all of these things. You're working in your business, but you're just not feeling that sense of vitality, that sense of urgency, that sense of excitement. Another one, overthinking. You're just constantly in your head. You have this analysis paralysis. You have all of these decisions that you need to make, and you're just not able to have them. Another one, avoiding hard conversations. It's kind of related to being resistant to them, but this is you're not willing to have those conversations that need to be had because you're probably afraid of something that is going to happen. Another, people pleasing. You're willing to put other people in front of yourself, and like on the outside, it probably seems like you have it all together, but inside, like that adds a lot of pressure and a lot of stress and a lot of overwhelm to you. Another one, you're feeling drained. You are feeling like you just are depleted. You're feeling like exhausted by trying to start something and then stop it. Another one, you have a lack of clarity on big decisions. There are big decisions that you know that you need to make, but you just don't really know, and you don't have the clarity on what is the right decision, the right direction to go. And then the last one is you almost feel like physically blocked. You feel like there's some type of a block in your head, or there's like a block in your body, in your chest, that like you want to move forward, but it's almost like something physically is holding you back. So this is just an assessment. Like when you hear these things and you see them, make a mental note and actually like tally it up. You can like pause this video and go through and just put a little check mark. There's 18 of them. And honestly, just want to use this as a self-assessment for you. How many of these do you experience daily, weekly, frequently? Because where you want to be is just have like a clear understanding of where you're at and what are the main things that are holding you back. Because once you understand what these main things are, then you can start to overcome them. And I like to ask a few questions when I'm talking to clients or other people that reach out from the content that I create, is I like to ask like some of these questions to help shift your mindset around it. And the first thing is, how long have you been struggling with this? Like, how long has this been an issue? Because sometimes we can tell ourselves like, oh, it's like not that big of a deal. But other times when I ask this question, some people say, honestly, like my entire life. I'm like, wow, you are like 30 or 40 years old and you have struggled with this for your entire life. Like that's like a lot. It just seems like really overwhelming. So how long have you struggled with this? Another thing that has been really helpful for me is to think about who else is impacted by this, by the procrastination, by the perfectionism, by the lack of consistency. Who else is impacted? Is it your spouse? Is it your kids? Is it your employees? Is it your clients, your potential prospects? When you start to see like how some of these things impact the people around you, it starts to shift things mentally, because as humans, we are willing to do more for other people than we are really for ourselves. It's just almost human nature. It's just like that social wiring that's in us. But when you recognize that, oh, wow, like my kids are being impacted by this. My wife is being impacted by this because I'm stressed and I'm overwhelmed and I'm carrying that from my business into our family life. You can start to make those mental shifts. So that's a really big question. Another question is, what is going to happen if you don't overcome these things? So if you don't overcome the procrastination, the fear, the imposter syndrome, the self-sabotage, where are you going to be 1 year, 3 years, and 5 years from now? So thinking like 1 year from now in 2025, and I haven't like made any sort of changes, how is that going to feel? Where are you going to be in your business? Where are you going to be in your personal life? Where are you going to be financially? How are you going to feel spiritually? These are like really, it's really helpful to like play out the scenario of what does it look like if I don't make any changes? You can do that exact same process for 1 year, 3 years, and 5 years. And if you really think about like, where are you going to be 5 years from now? It's going to be 2029, 5 years from now. And you're still dealing with a lot of these things that we're talking about. Like, how is that going to feel? When I ask that question, a lot of people start to almost feel like this sense of regret. And they just think like, man, like I can't believe that I would still let these things happen without making a change now. And like, once I ask the question of like, where are you going to be 5 years from now? Like, describe to me what your life is going to look like and how you're going to feel. Just ask like, is that what you want? Because if you don't want to be experiencing these things that are dragging you down for the next 1, 3, or 5 years, then you have an opportunity like right now to make a decision. You have an opportunity right now to like raise your standards and to really shift into the best version of yourself. And this process that I walk through, it's hard. It's a transformation, but it is so necessary, and it is probably some of the most meaningful work that you can ever do, is to do the inner work, to work on yourself, to step into who you were created to be. And like, I just hope that when you shift your beliefs like we did in the first part, and you start to do this assessment and start to play it out, you're in a position where you start to think like, I need to get a hold of this, and I need to make a change, not just for myself, but for my family, for my wife, for my business, for my clients, for my prospects. I hope that that is where you are at right now. So if you're in that place of now, like shifting your beliefs, now understanding your current reality and thinking about, all right, like how do I actually make this change and become the best version of myself? I want to get into the last part, which is what I refer to as the path to mastery. Because in order to get to where you want to be, you need to have a guide. You need to have a plan. You need to have a community. And that's where I can come in, and that's where I can help. And so what I want to do is I want to start to talk about the path to mastery and what that looks like, and actually invite you, if you're a good fit, to be a part of the mastery arena. And so this is my coaching program for entrepreneurs, business owners, and leaders who are committed to the path of mastery and committed to overcoming the self-sabotage that is holding you back from the results that you want in your personal life and in your business. And what we do is we go through a 3-phase process through coaching and through course and through the community. And this is ultimately like the proven process that I have followed in order to break past my own fears and limitations and, build this thriving business, thriving personal and family life, complete multiple Ironmans and ultra marathons, and achieve a top 5% podcast in the world. And what I do is I kind of break it down into 3 different phases. And the first thing that we do is I help you kind of stop the mental blocks and the triggers and the stories that you're telling yourself, and kind of stop those negative patterns. And what I do is I help kind of teach you why you are self-sabotaging. I give you the tools and the frameworks to overcome and change your mind around what you're doing so that it's easier to follow through. So the first part is really stopping the negative things that are getting in your way. And then the second part is to start to dream and start to get clear on your end state. Like, where do you want to be? A lot of times we talk about a 10-year vision, a 5-year vision, a 3-year vision, a 1-year vision, and then a 90-day vision. Because the actions that you're taking in the current state are a lot easier when you know how do they carry over into your long-term vision. So I help you kind of get clear on what does the end state look like and what would it look like without all of this self-doubt and fear and self-sabotage. So that's the second part. We start to get really clear on long-term. And then the third part is really like starting and building momentum, because I know that there's going to be things that once you stop doing the things that are holding you back, you start to get clear on where do you want to go. It's going to be the process of starting to build momentum, building habits, building routines, and building structure so that every day you've got morning routines, you've got evening routines, you've got weekly routines that make it effortless for you to take action on your personal and your professional goals. Many of my clients really start to feel like their ideal selves through this process, and then that translates into actual results in their business or in their careers. And so it's those kind of 3 steps. And through the course of this program, I do have a guarantee, which is that you will learn the tools and skills to stop your self-sabotaging behavior within 90 days of the program. And you are going to have the systems and the daily and weekly routines of top performing entrepreneurs. So if that is kind of like your goal of where you want to be, I want to just invite you to book a call with me down below where I can just see, is this a good fit? And for many of you, you've probably already booked a call with me and you're just watching this ahead of our call. And that's great too. I just want to kind of share a little bit about what the process looks like and how we actually make that happen. So I mentioned that what you get access to is this kind of process. You get access to me as your coach. You get access to all of my tools and my habits, or all of my tools and like habit trackers and systems that I use to help myself and help all of my clients. And so I hope that this training helped you start to make those shifts that you know that you need to make, because I really believe that this is something that you can overcome by committing yourself to the path of mastery. And the path of mastery is actually easier when you have a guide, when you have a community, and when you have a proven roadmap. So if you have gotten to this part in the video, I want to encourage you to book a call down below if you haven't already. But if you have, I look forward to talking to you, and let me know what was your biggest takeaway from today's training. What are some things that you're maybe curious about that we didn't cover? I'll make sure to update that in the future. So see you all in the next one.